But anyway, my name is Jamie Weatherford, and I am a third-generation candy man. My family owns and operates a candy manufacturing business about 4 miles from here. In 2011, I married my beautiful wife, Jessica Walden. Jessica is the daughter of Alan Walden, who most people know as the brother of Phil Walden. Jessica started this event. There's an organization called the College Hill Corridor that's designed to connect Mercer University to downtown Macon. And Jessica began this tour with them as sort of an impromptu, fun thing to do. And when the Georgia Music Hall of Fame shut its doors in 2010, we decided to try to become a little bit more professional and do it on a regular basis. So we actually provide 2 tours. We provide a Friday night tour, which is what we're actually doing this morning. It's called the Freebirds and Night Owls Tour. And the reason we do it on Friday is because there's no open container law in downtown Macon on Fridays from 6 to 10, so people can drink as we get the tour. So that's always a bonus. And then we also have another tour that we do every second Saturday. That's the In-Town Rock and Roll Stroll. That focuses more on the homes and the businesses associated with Capricorn Records that are in the College Street district of downtown Macon. So we're doing a little bit different this morning in that we're taking the Friday night tour on a Saturday morning. But anyway, we also do private tours. So if you're ever coming through town and you just want to give us a call, we can almost always accommodate. We do tours where we'll actually drive you around. We'll do tours. We'll walk with you. So we have a wide variety of tours that we offer. If you're on Facebook, please like us, Facebook/Rock Candy Tours. Okay. So anyway, we have a pretty big crowd. I hope all of you can hear me well. Hopefully, as we move forward, y'all can maybe gather up a little bit. The history of Macon, to me, I think everybody here, and this is kind of an honor for me because this is probably the most knowledgeable group of people I've ever given a tour to. I have a feeling that a large portion of you probably know more about this than I do, and I know a large portion of you have lived it more than I have. So it's an exciting opportunity to speak with y'all. After the tour or something like that, if you have some cool stories or if you know of a mistake I made or something like that, please don't hesitate to tell me. So it's an honor to be here with y'all. But in my opinion, one of the neatest components about the history of music in Macon, we all know about Capricorn Records and the Allman Brothers Band. But what most people do not understand is that the genesis of music in Macon really occurred in large part thanks to Little Richard. And of course, Little Richard, everybody calls himself the architect of rock and roll, and I think a lot of people aren't really sure why. But Little Richard was born in Macon, just a couple of miles away in the Pleasant Hill community, and was always different from the get-go. But grew up singing in his church, and when he was 13 years old, he went to go see a performance at the Macon City Auditorium, which is down the street, by a woman named Sister Rosetta Tharpe. Sister Rosetta Tharpe is an amazing guitarist, female, who did primarily in the secular music field, a lot of Christian music. She did some non-Christian and got in trouble for it. But when she was performing, she noticed this little kid kind of acting crazy up on the front row, and so she pulled him up on stage, and that kid sang a song with her, and the crowd went nuts. And that is the day that Little Richard decided he was going to be a performer. And then, 8 years later, a 13-year-old Phil Walden snuck into the Macon City Auditorium, and he went to go see a band called Amos Milburn and the Chicken Shack Shakers, who did the drinking songs. George Thorogood's One Bourbon, One Scotch, One Beer. That was originally an Amos Milburn song. And young Phil wasn't too impressed by Amos Milburn, but the opening act, Little Richard and the Upsetters, featuring a young Jimi Hendrix on guitar, blew Phil Walden away. Is a Grammy-winning jazz performer. They performed there in the late 70s. They got so drunk they passed out in booth number 11, which is, if you walk in the booth, the last booth on the right with its back facing towards the door. They call it the Doc Holliday. If you ever want to get drunk and pass out where Tom Waits did, that's the place to do it. Now, in 1987, Widespread Panic played right there on that patio. Widespread Panic, of course, was founded by Phil Walden's son, Philip Michael Walden Jr. And he was bringing Widespread Panic to Macon a lot, trying to launch their career. And their third performance in the city of Macon in 1987 was here, which I have a bootleg of. All right. Known now. That was then called the Bistro. And I mentioned to y'all about Frank Fenner, right? Well, Frank Fenner, imagine Frank Fenner, okay? This guy's Mr. International. He's incredibly handsome. He has this gorgeous wife whose name was, you'll understand why I have to look this up, Baroness Ulla von Blixen-Kinecki, aka Kiki, who was a Swedish aristocrat descended from the family of Roar von Blixen of out of Africa fame. Okay? They're living in London, booking Rolling Stones, the Animals, having all these major tours. Frank was in line to become the European head of the European division of Atlantic Records, and Phil Walden convinced him to move to Macon, Georgia. So here comes Kiki and Frank, and they're like, what in the hell is going on around here? And they had nowhere to go eat. They had H&H restaurant. You can't take all your famous people to H&H every time. So Frank and Phil were very forward-thinking people. Frank and Phil tried to join Idlehour Country Club, and they were blackballed, so they started their own country club, which is now we call Healy Point. Frank's son, Robin, had a small learning disability. Couldn't find a teacher in Macon to give him the attention he wanted. He started his own school. Kind of the godfather of Southern rock here, Sidney Lanier. This is Sidney Lanier's law office. You probably heard his name. He's one of, he has about more stuff named after him in America than by anybody else. Lanier Lake, Lanier Bridge, Lanier High School, he's got stuff everywhere. But he's a really interesting character in that he was super smart. He actually went to college when he was 14 years old. And then the woman to the right, that was Jan Blair. To the left, the Grand, where there's now a parking lot, was unfortunately a building that could not be saved. And that was a hotel called the Georgian Hotel. And in the basement of the Georgian Hotel was a little record company called Confederate Records. And Confederate Records was owned and operated by a gentleman named Bobby Smith. Yesterday was actually the anniversary, 1 year anniversary of Bobby Smith's passing. He died yesterday in 2012. But Bobby Smith is who first owned Otis Redding. So they have a secondary income as well, although now that Otis Redding's career has had a takeoff, they don't really need it anymore. Right? The only Redding that still lives in downtown Macon is Otis III, who was a spitting image of his father. But what's in Pat Armstrong was actually Alan Walden's business partner when they first started Hustlers Incorporated, the management company that would sign Leonard Skinner. And Pat and Alan had a little bit of a falling out. And the main reason why was because Alan wanted one strong band in rock and roll and one strong band in R&B. And that band for him was a guy named Pep Brown, who's still alive in Milledgeville. But anyway, so Pat went out and he founded a band called White Witch, and another band called Burnham Wood, which some of y'all may recall.